What do you think you've learned about Kamala as a person just from studying her, watching her as many hours as you have?
She's very fake. You know when she's cornered. I remember like the Brett Baer interview really showed how like she does not even let you get a word out. I personally believe, and this is just my opinion, she displays a lot of narcissistic qualities. She really genuinely thinks she's the only person in the room. She's almost so disconnected because whenever she's laughing, nobody's laughing with her. And she's very disingenuous. I was saying ingenuine for the longest time on these podcasts, by the way. It's so embarrassing, but disingenuous is the correct term,
People
apparently.
know what you mean.
I'm
I
sure.
make up words sometimes.
Yeah, I'm just like I talk too fast for my own good. That's why that happens. But disingenuous, like I'm also good with energy. Like I'm just very transparent. That's my personality. If anything, why I would be horrible like on live radios because I'll be that person that says something I wasn't supposed to say or whatever it is because I kind of sometimes speak without really needing to think about it before because what you see is what you get. It's always been my personality. I've been direct like this all my life. That's why, if she loses, great, great. If she wins, okay, like I'll make the best of it. I'm not gonna, go crazy. So when it comes to like the character and what was the original question? See, I have
What do you
ADD.
think you've learned about Kamala as a
Oh,
person from
yeah,
studying her?
the more you look at her, the more you listen to her and how she goes back and forth and never answers the question. Here's the best thing I learned about her. She's not as stupid as she tries to make herself seem. She knows exactly what she's doing. So in the beginning, if you remember, she was very, very cutesy. Almost the word salad, like, did it make sense? She always talked about loving school buses and Venn diagrams. Like, take it from the person that studied this. She was very, very cutesy, unserious,
Hmm.
didn't take anything too seriously. Every time she was on a panel, she made sure she like put in a joke, made everything like she's trying to be relatable. Since she started campaigning, you see the pandering front and center. She's trying to combine it with some ridiculous notion of a personality, right? She panders to the black people. She sees
Mhm.
Spanish people in the audience. Oh, I love you back. Please, no clapping. Please. I can't wait for her to get into Chinatown because I want to see what the hell she's going to pull out of her
I saw
ass.
a clip of her talking about how to make greens. Like she was
Yeah.
talking to this
Yeah.
old black lady, and I was like, "Oh
Yep.
no!"
You got
I'm
to
like,
put them in the
"Girl,
bathtub. My family love my
yes,
collard greens, and you wash
greens in
them,
the
and they want so
bathtub."
many of them. You got to wash them in the bathtub, so I can get it in the kitchen. Yeah, I've done so many skits like making fun of her,
Oh,
and it's great because I love doing like the different accents, and when I do those videos, people realize she's pandering. I don't know how they don't see it before that. I
wow.
guess we have magic lenses, people that are like studying something, but I'm like to people, how do you not see this? She just pulled out a Jamaican accent out of her ass. How does that not resonate with like you're trying to make those people like you? You do stuff like that when it's fake, when it's not, if I come into a room with girls, you know how mean girls can be, right? You know how like
Mhm.
there's going to be two types of women. There's going to be the woman that wants to be liked by all the other women just because like she's like, "Oh, well, I'm going to play along." They might even say something and she'll be like, "Yeah, no, yeah, like I agree with that, I guess." Like they throw out all their own values to just make that person
That's
like
a
them.
very female thing, and it happens sometimes unconsciously, like, women in relationships will
Yes.
sometimes
And
completely
and we
lose
overshare.
themselves.
Like, you
Yeah.
immediately just wanna, want that, like, adult friend or whatever. I stopped doing that shit when I realized how, like, it's just so toxic to me. Like, why am I pretending to be someone that they might like? The more I act like myself, the more I'm actually able to, like, relate to people in those same rooms. Maybe I'm not gonna get along with everybody, and that's fine. The libs definitely don't like me. I've accepted that years ago. I am okay with it. You've already had a funeral in my head. Like, I don't care.
Yeah.
But I'm the other kind of person that's gonna, I'll come up to you, we'll talk. I don't think Kamala Harris has that. She's that girl that's gonna pretend and agree with everything you're
Wow.
saying and turn around and talk shit about you immediately, as long as she can get something from you. So I look at her as a
Wow.
woman in a feminine way. I've also looked at like when in Pennsylvania, she was like standing in this whole bars, like they're all around her. I don't remember, it was a bar or like a store. And she goes, "Yeah, I'm just, you know, going to as many cities as I can," and like she's scratching her leg. And when I'm looking at her, like my son is 12, I'm like to her, "You are so full of shit." This is what a child does when they know they didn't do their homework and they're just trying to get out of it. Like that's what I see her as.
Oh.
She's just so full of shit.
Like
That's the
like
best
she's
way.
always like this she's in this constant pop quiz,
She's always pretending and she
like
laughs when
fake
she
it till
doesn't
you
have a
make
good
it.
answer or when she's trying to pretend she answered the question. And I see it because the people that have asked her the question, they're not laughing too. They're like, "Am I going to get more than that?" And she goes, "Well, you got to talk about the modalities." But no, I think that
What the fuck is a modality?
I don't know. She does that. She puts dualities and modalities in her speeches, and she actually confuses. And I don't think that that's by mistake. She also talks about joy. She talks about unburdening what has been. These are all Marxist / like communist ideology slogans. So I'm like, guys, she's not talking about unburdening what has been for shits and giggles. She's actually talking about like that's what she's trying to put in, and that's how Stalin and all these other people, this is what they did, and they incorporated it like that by telling people like we need to bring joy back, we need to stop making you guys worry, we're going to have equity amongst everyone. Like she is a dangerous candidate for this country because she's so radical left. Like listen to how she talks about Israel. No matter where anybody stands on that issue, she actually stands there and goes, what happened to Israel was terrible, but the genocide in Palestine is real. You can't do that. You can't get both of them to vote for you. I don't care if you think you can. You can't. You either have Israel bring back the hostages and you're supporting them because we are their ally, or you're going to be pro-terror because you're not doing anything about the anti-Semitism. You're also still funding them to create more terror. So what fucking side are you on, lady? And it's like, she will say it in the same sentence and she won't bat an eye. And some of the Jews, they gobble it up. And then some of the people that are like, pro-Hamas are like, well, at least she's admitting that the genocide is real. I'm going to vote for her. But I think that that's her strategy, to just try to like lie her way to get whatever, like a ban fracking. We are for fracking. The guns. I have a Glock. But then 3 days ago, it's like mandatory buybacks are a thing. Which one? You either want to repeal the Second Amendment or you're pro-gun, you're pro-Glock, unless it's rules for you and not for everyone else, which is the Democratic way.
Yeah, I think Kamala learns just enough of what to say and how to say it so that she sounds competent, which is why she really falters in these long form settings, like with Brett Baer you mentioned. And there's,
she was just interrupting him. She knew he's going to say stuff that's going to put her on that hot seat. Listen to what she was telling him. Come on, Brett.
Yes, she kept saying, "Come on, you know what I mean."
What
he's like, "No, about. I don't. I don't know what you mean."
Yeah, he's like, "I don't fucking know." I made a whole video of that, and as I was watching it, I'm like, "Is she for real?" And she was getting mad, and she just kept on saying it, like, "No, come on, you know what I'm talking about. The people that are up there with me know what I'm talking about. Like, why don't you say what you're talking about instead of how everyone else knows, and we're the only ones in the room that don't know, because you don't know what you're talking about." So she does this thing that narcissists do, and she gaslights and projects a lot. So when I study her, I'm just like, listen to what she's saying. It's her administration that is actually responsible for doing that. So she left the border wide open, and she sits there and still blames Donald Trump. And it's like, but what about you, bitch? You're here now. And she goes, that's a conversation that we need to have. Look, I was there. Photo op. And it's like, okay, yeah, you were. And then we found out that you didn't even let the plane off the ground to deliver those supplies that you did that photo op for. So you went to the border. Cow. Yeah, completely fact check, by the way. You went to the border. You did a photo op. You pretended like you were going to go and send help for Hurricane Helene victims. And those two aviators came out, did an interview and said, well, we were actually ordered to not let that plane off the ground. So you did it not only for optics, but if you did it, why not let it get off the ground? Are you here to just destroy America? What is your agenda here, lady?
Wow. Yeah. It's like she memorizes just enough talking points to get her through short
and they let her just talk long enough to show her face, to make her feel kind of exclusive. Like, you were in entertainment. You know how it is. Yep. Celebs can't come and hang at the party for everyone to like, look, Jay-Z fucking hides Beyonce under the fucking table in their third room floor. Because did you hear her when she used to do interviews? She was too likable, too relatable. She was too cutesy, in Texas. She wasn't that bright. I don't think she finished school.
Beyonce.
So many moments that she had that she was like, what? What's she trying to say? So he kind of kept her and made her this image. And it's 101, PR 101. That's what they're all probably doing. That's what they're doing. But yet you got Trump over here free balling it for hours on every podcast he can get on.
Great at improvising. Great. Yeah, he can just talk because he's so smart. He has the experience and he's genuine and he can back up everything he says.
And he funny and he's relatable. He can be off
the dome for hours. Yep, he's a real person, even though he is a millionaire and as a successful businessman. It's and he'll get behind a fryer and not be condescending about it.
Exactly, and that's exactly genuine. What he proved. And that's why they're pissed off, because Trump's genuinely a guy's guy. I actually had the privilege of being in Mar-a-Lago last year for Halloween. Um,
Ooh.
that was really fun. He was there with Melania, but he was also with his in-laws, and they were kind of like, sheltered like by Secret Service. It was like ridiculous. Like I kept on trying to come in, and Secret Service was like, "Where the fuck are you always going?" I'm like, "I'm
Wow.
here to talk to Don. All right, I'm here for Don." And one of the Secret Service guys was actually like, "Finally, Kamala made her way to Mar-a-Lago," and I'm like, "You know who I am?" And he's like, "Yeah, I follow you."
Wow. That's cool. That's really cool.
Yes, I had like this like moment, but I was invited like as a guest, and then we did like a quick little, we did our own little skit. I actually came with the Biden administration. It was really funny. I like met a bunch of people there, and we had a great time. It was a phenomenal party. Trump was the DJ the whole time. I mean, he had an iPad in front of him. He was picking all these bangers, and I'm like,
Hold on, I
dude,
have a playlist for this.
yeah. And I'm like, I want to drive around with him on West Palm Beach because he listens to the same classics that we all do. He was like sitting there doing the thing. Every single one of the members there, I was having side conversations with, like I was just mingling, whatever. They would all say like, he is so loved. He is so
Wow.
loved. And this is not just his like close friends. These are members of the club. These are people that like, know of him. They talk about how generous he is all the time. This is not a side of Trump that people unfortunately see or hear of even, and it's very easy to forget. I'm sad to admit that I was one of the people when he first started running, I want to say, that I felt like Jim Carrey in Ace Ventura with an arrow in each leg because I hated Hillary. But I'm like, come
Right.
on, is this the best we can do that's not a politician? Are you kidding me? The apprentice guy?
Mhm.
But he won my heart over, over the years. And I realized like he's a typical New Yorker, which first of all, I'm obsessed with. I was raised
Yep.
here basically. He's just such a people's person. And I don't give a fuck how mean he is.
He
That's
can
that's
talk to
just
anybody. Yeah.
ridiculous. Go into any setting, go into a surgical unit. They actually prepare you and tell you that the surgeon is going to have an authoritarian dictatorship when there's an emergency because we don't have fucking time to sit here and say, who wants to take the blood?
Right,
Who
right.
wants to do the intubation? No,
Ooh,
you
I
have
don't wanna
one
touch
person
the
in
blood.
charge. Yeah, but you have one person in charge that says, you get over here, you do that, you do that, you do that. We're here to save a life. It's the same thing for a pilot. It's the same thing in a Marine situation or, I'm sure in the Army. Nobody's worried about being polite. You want the guy that's the most qualified. And we have a cackling hyena here who's talking about bringing joy with fucking Tim Waltz hopping around like a pony on stage. The seriousness has left this administration, but she gets on stage every chance she gets and talks about Trump is a very unserious candidate. And it drives me wild. She actually projects, this is what narcissists do,
Mhm.
every single thing that she is responsible for doing. She is the unserious
Yep.
candidate. She is the one that's talking about joy in one segment and the next day yelling behind the presidential seal about he doesn't have the right to ever get behind this seat never again. So
Yeah.
her campaign is all driven through hate. And I,
Yep.
love conquers. And I think that he's doing so well recently that I'm afraid of what's going to happen in the next 2 weeks. I'm going to, you know what I
I
mean? Like,
know.
it's
I
almost like
know.
we are all in such a climatic event without the actual
Yeah.
climax feeling good that we don't know. We don't really know how we're going to feel. Hopefully, nothing happens. I don't want to manifest that, but what do you think, Chrissy? Like, I think about it
Everything
every day.
I think about it every day too, and everything's looking better and better for him. He's making all the right moves. Like he did such a good job, just in the last few years of calming down the parts of his personality that I feel like the left could easily target. Like
100%.
he calmed
He
down
was a
like
Rottweiler. Yep,
the mean
exactly.
tweets part of his personality, and I don't know if that's due to him getting older or he's just got better
Well, sometimes it
advisors
still comes
around
out.
him.
It still comes
Yeah.
out sometimes. He was at the rally the other
It
day, and he's like, "She's a shit vice president." Like, he just couldn't even hold it in. But that's what people relate to as well. He's
'Cause that's a
frustrated.
real person.
That's
Yeah.
a real person. That's how we all feel, and she is a shit vice president. Sometimes, like, on the occasional boring day, and I never engage with, like, the morons, but there's gonna be a comment that I see, and it's not that it's gonna trigger me, but it's almost like, I know that this is not gonna get into this person's skull. I know that they're not gonna accept it for what I want them to accept it, but I'll sit there and I'll type out a tweet or whatever it is, and I say, when she was in California, she worked on 164 pieces of legislation during her tenure. Not one was passed. She
Whoa.
literally is one of the few that did nothing in her entire political career.
Oh, how is that even possible?
So you
Jeez.
can't even name an accomplishment by this woman. You can only name failures. You can only name projects she maybe started on and never finished. What happened to the electric school buses? They took like millions of dollars and only built 6. No one's even holding
Well,
them accountable for all that money.
Miss Frizzle is to blame for that not working.
Yeah,
I can't even do
she probably drove up the magic school bus to Joe's ass, and it's stuck up there.
You know what I didn't realize is that her whole joy shtick, that was a Marxist tactic.
It's a communist thing, yeah. Joy, joy, joy. They talk about that
Wow.
all the time. So, like, I always say, like, you know what? She's not just saying nonsense. She's genuinely saying the stuff that she's been brainwashed to say or fed. But she is radical left at the end of the day, and she's probably what she was voted the most radical senator.
Mhm.
So it's the complete opposite of where most of the country feels. But libs are going to vote for her because it's as long as it's not Donald Trump, and that's a very scary thing.
It is scary, and this is the most, radical leftist ticket we've ever had. Tim Walz, I mean, if you've heard where he stands on abortion and
Yeah.
I mean, he is for, like, the latest possible, I think, t you know, it's, like, something really disgusting and bothersome that, like, I don't know if it's, like, 9 months, but he also his idea of, like, the alphabet gang mafia, he also wants to include, like, PDF files, on the sexual spectrum, that sort of thing.
Oh my
That's
gosh.
his belief system. So it's like, okay, yeah, you guys are all whacked out.
Yeah.
And it's nice to see, like, especially with Trump going to he's at McDonald's, he's just doing so much. It seems like he is, like, really crushing it. Polls are in his favor. He's doing really, really well, and I have friends who are not political going, "I don't see how he can't lose," and it's like, "Okay." You know, it makes me really nervous for what they're gonna try
For sure,
next,
because listen, at the end of
but
the day, they didn't think he'd win in
they didn't
2016.
think he would live. They didn't think he would still be alive at this
And this
point.
time they didn't think he would live, which is exactly what I was gonna say. So we don't know what's up their sleeve. I just know that it's like they know they're in such deep shit for the retribution that he will bring upon them if he wins, that things are happening as we speak behind closed doors. You know what else? It's like crazy. She said something to that guy that yelled out, "Jesus is Lord," and she said, "You're at the wrong rally." Like, with what brain did she say that with? You gotta look at this woman and think, like, that's not even a stupid thing to say, that's a satanic thing
It
to say.
is.
I'm Jewish, I'm proudly Jewish. Why would you mock the Lord like that? Why would you do that? Why would
Yeah.
you even push Christians away like that? And then the Catholics with the fucking, that movie that what's her name? Molly.
Oh, yeah, 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 Mary Catherine Gallagher,
So
she
you
was,
didn't come to the dinner because you're a chicken shit because Trump would have
mhm,
probably, ripped you apart and you wouldn't be able to keep up. So you did this fake
yep.
SNL skit. This is what I don't understand with voters. How do they not see this? Like, her level of devotion is not even there. It's not there. She does not care. She's doing it to check it off of her book.
Yep.
Every time she gets up from an interview, she buttons up her jacket and she goes, "Thank you," walks the fuck away. Like, you could feel it from her, like, "Oh, thank God that shit's over." Like, I wish people would see how nasty she probably is behind closed doors. What, like 74% of her staff quit the first year. What is that telling people? Everyone is so hyper focused on Trump being like a tough guy and having expectations and boundaries. Look at what she did. She just gave Jean-Claude Van Damme Pierre a promotion.
Yeah, she can't enjoy what she's doing, and it just makes a lot of people mad because 'cause you're like, she ran the worst possible like, when she ran in, God, what was it, 2020? Like, she was the least popular.
She's the least
She
popular. Exactly.
and yet here she is here she is, like, thinking she can be president. It's really scary, but people have such a short memory, and, she's just so full of shit, and I think that Bret Baier interview really opened up a lot of people's eyes because he kept her to task. He kept saying, like, "No, she has all her shtick about, 'Let's be unburdened by what has been.'" He's like, "No, you're what has been. You have been a part of this administration the last 3.5 years. Like, you are part of why the 79% of people think this country's, going in
You
a
know
shitty
what I'm
direction."
talking about. And
She's
you
like,
know.
"It's because" she actually said it's because Trump has been running for
I mean,
10 years.
and
That
Trump
was
has
her
been
answer.
running. Yeah, when I heard that, I'm like, sometimes, like, people say to me, like, "What you said didn't make sense." I'm like, "I actually just verbatim, stole her speech, wrote it down, and repeated it so that you can hear how that didn't make any sense." And they're just like, "She really said that?" Like, there's some people that didn't catch the interview, like, I expect everyone to see it because it's all over my feed, but, most people, sometimes they're not seeing it. And when I saw that moment, it's like you could see she's stumbling. And we saw also a very, very, very unhinged version of her on that, interview when she started, like, getting out of her seat. She was like, "This is a
Ooh.
democracy." And, when she got the crazy eye look, I saw every lib I've ever come across on social media. I kid you not. She
Her
looked like
movements were bad. Yeah, her
her
arm
movements were
movements.
bad. She kept on moving in the chair, and he actually sat there like this. Like, I think he loved that he got her off kilter. I mean, it's a journalist's dream probably, to, really, really affect them like that. But
Get under their
she's just a
skin.
disaster. I
Mhm.
just don't understand how she has all this campaign money. I saw today Valuetainment posted that she raised $1 billion. $1 billion. That's a problem for
Whew.
the next 2 weeks. I'm not gonna lie. But we shall
I
see. That's
I
the part of it that makes me nervous. I think Trump raised like 274 million. That's
Whoa.
genuinely on a smaller scale, and he has real patriots, real middle class probably donating to him, some billionaire
Yeah,
friends, but
here's
she
my
has
last
so
$10. I
yeah.
think in the beginning when they first put her on the ticket and switched I think they maybe bullied a lot of Biden's PACs to switch their donations over to her.
They had to. They had no other choice. That's probably why
Yeah.
she remained on the ticket. I was like reading stuff that said you have to keep her on the ticket if you want to use that campaign money because she's on Biden's ticket. So you can't, and
Wow.
that whole thing of taking him out, putting her in, I don't think that they expected Trump to survive. So that's
Nope.
why we see the scrambling and we see the last minute like put togethers of the interviews and the campaigns because listen to CNN bragging about how she's the Democratic nominee. She doesn't have to debate. She doesn't have to do this and that. It's fucking ridiculous. Like you're talking to us about being threats to democracy where you guys are the ones that are just like, dictating literally what's going to happen in the next 4 years. It's crazy.
Mhm. Yeah, when I listen to Kamala, I think when she laughs, it's to move things along. It's like, "Here's what I'm doing to make you think I'm a fun, like, easygoing person," but it's so we can, like she's trying to
It's a
cleanse the
great conversation jumper.
Yep.
It is a smart tactic when you're in conversation with people and you maybe want to break the ice. We've all probably done it at one point or another. She does it in the most weird scenarios, and it doesn't make sense when she does it, where she's doing it. Like when she was early on asked about the border, right? Like a year after ignoring it, I remember. And he asks her, and she goes, "And I haven't been to Europe," right? And I think that she laughed because she got so condescending that she forgot herself. And then
Yep.
she laughs it off and she goes, "Yeah, I don't understand your point, right?" But anyway, look, I have other priority. And then she like gets into the like, it's not funny. You haven't been there. No one cares that you weren't in Europe.
It's your
So,
job to be there. Yeah, no one cares about Europe.
but unfortunately, we do have a lot of Americans that probably look at their screen and they listen to their, TV teleprompters, teleprompters, that's Kamala's job. But when they listen to their TVs, they are kind of just accepting whatever she says for
Right, they
whatever
go, "Well, I haven't been to Europe either." That's a good point.
it's insane to me. Yeah, but like I know a lot of people that take her word for what it is. Like I should say I tried to have a decent conversation with somebody that I used to work with. She actually had reached out because she saw me on Gutfeld. So this was a recent thing. And we started talking. She's like, "Listen, I just want to tell you, like, this is so amazing. I can't believe you went from the bedside to this. How long have you been doing this?" So we did the whole yada 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 yada. And then she goes, "So I take it from your cadence and your tone, you don't support her." And she's like, "And that's fine, but don't tell me you're voting for Trump."
Oh, come on.
And I'm like, "Man, I really thought that this was going to be a conversation where me and you can just catch up in a healthy way, and maybe you could send me some of the pictures of your kids, and I'll send you some of mine."
This was an old friend of yours?
This was an old friend of mine that I actually met when I was at that hospital. We were really close when we worked there. It's been years.
Wow.
It's been probably like 7 years since I've been there. So we got into this conversation and I'm like, "Look, we're going to get into an argument right now because you're not going to like anything I have to say. I'm absolutely voting for Donald Trump unapologetically. What is the alternative? What is the alternative?" And she goes, "Well, what's your issue with her? What's like your number one
Mm.
issue with her, basically?" And I'm like, "Look, there are a lot of issues with her, but like, and I know that friend, it lives in Long Island and is huge on the
Ugh.
Second Amendment, which doesn't make any sense for me."
What?
Yeah, she's huge. She has guns. Her husband has guns. And I'm just like, so let's not
Long
talk about
Island
me
is
for a second. I'm like, you do know that,
Island's
and you know what
red
she
too.
answers to me? She answers to me, "Kamala just said on TV she has a Glock." And she's one of those, unfortunately. She's like the Long
Oh,
Island. She goes, "What do
no.
you mean she has a
I'm
Glock?"
from Long Island. It's embarrassing sometimes. Like,
It is
the best of
embarrassing
Long
sometimes,
Island
but
are
like,
red, but sometimes she's
I'm
just so
right off
true.
Long Island. I'm not that far away from them, but I went to inner city public school, so sometimes like, I have like a Blackanese accent. It's insane. It just comes out. But Russian native, I speak a few languages. But when it came to that conversation, someone that was genuinely educated, very smart girl, I worked bedside with her, would trust her with my life, if anything. Sometimes you just got to understand that it's just two different perspectives. What she feels is right, we feel is wrong, and the complete opposite is the truth. And that's what she was telling me. She's like, well, I personally have listened to her, and I feel like she's bringing warmth and compassion. He was divisive. I'll never forgive him for January 6th. And I'm like, all right.
Oh, come on.
I'm like, okay. I'm like, we have nothing to talk about. There's no way I'm going to get into this with you. I'm like, I'm sorry you feel that way. Thank you for reaching out anyway. And she wasn't done. She was like, no, I want to get this out. And I'm like, no, fuck you. You're not going to get it out. You just want to shit on what I'm doing because you knew that I'm not for her. You had to call me and tell me how you felt. You thought that it was going to make me feel like low. You thought that you're going to condescend to me. You are an asshole for voting for her, and you will kill yourself when you're probably 65 remembering this one decision. Like, you're going to be that person that cringes every time you remember that you once voted for her, if we're still alive at that time. I'm like, you're not going to shame me into my choice. Am I shaming you for your choice? No.
Right.
I don't understand it. I never will. But you're the one trying to convince me that I'm doing something dangerous for the country by voting for Donald Trump. So the conversation went so dark, so quick. And I was like to myself, Esther, this is why you don't engage. This is why I concentrate on the family. My kids are my buddies, because I'm like to them, what do we not do? And my little one is 5.
Liberals.
No. We don't eat cats and dogs. And I'm like, very good. As a joke, I don't get them into the politics of it, but those are my people, my family, my community. We're very pro-Trump around here where I live, but most of us work with people that are not pro-Trump because we're in New York. It's a blue state. And I have this conversation with them all the time where they're like, how are you so open about how you feel? I'm scared. I'm like, stop being scared because that's bullshit. You have to be loud and proud. It has to be too big to rig. There's a reason why people say that. We have to all showcase our support. And I unapologetically tell people, I even said to you this, I will probably be the only person that benefits if she wins. And even I don't want that. I do not want that. I don't want that. Will it be lucrative? Sure. I already have my luxury wallpaper. There's only so much shit you can buy. Yeah. I'm okay with living the middle class. I like middle class,